I'm Lorraine Ballard-Morrill, and we are here once again with our special guest, who is Angela Giampolo, for a segment that we called Speak Out. It's focused on LGBTQ issues, and she is well known in the LGBTQ community as the founder of Philly Gay Lawyer. And we're here to talk about the latest. And boy, there's a lot going on, isn't there?
Absolutely, Lorraine. This week's been a crazy week. Everyone really knows about Indiana because that's who's been in the news. And really, Governor Pence is just an idiot for having, done what he did in the way that he did. But what a lot of people don't realize is that over 85 laws across 28 states, almost half, anti-LGBT laws have been enacted over the last couple of months. Indiana's, it's just the way that they went about doing it, caught the national attention. Almost half of the states are putting laws into place to reel back or to take away some of the progress that the LGBT movement, they're all sort of couched in this religious freedom restoration language. That's what they're basing it in.
I wonder if you could just explain exactly what the original law was, which allowed, say, a florist not to serve, say, an LGBTQ couple who wanted to buy flowers for their
wedding.
Same-sex wedding.
Right.
So tell us what that was.
Well, so the original law actually wasn't even that. The original law that all of this is based on is that 1993 Federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And the intention behind that is night and day from what it's being used today. And Pennsylvania also has a similar law that we enacted in 2002. And the first lawsuit on the books after the law was passed here in Pennsylvania was in 2005, and it was a Muslim firefighter. The ACLU brought the case, and the ACLU is the same organization that got us gay marriage in Pennsylvania. And the ACLU was fighting to uphold this religious Freedom Restoration Act. So the firefighter was fighting, no pun intended, for his right to have his beard longer, and they wanted him to shave it off completely and said that it was creating danger within him being a firefighter. But they were able to prove that he could wear the mask, take the mask on and off, and do everything that he needed to do as a firefighter while upholding his faith. Mm-hmm. And so that truly is what a Religious Freedom Restoration Act was meant to do.
But the unintentional impact is what?
Well, not even unintentional. These laws, it's very intentional, but the laws that are being created now, while Governor Pence and others are saying that these laws mirror that 1993 law, they in fact do not. There are two very different components that have been added to the most recent laws. One, the definition of person, which in the 1993 law was always just a person, now include companies, limited liability companies, corporations, basically for-profit entities. To come full circle to your example of, it's not the lady who owns the flower shop. She's allowed to have her religious beliefs. But when she then, as a flower shop company, so now that company, that flower shop building an entity is now a person. And that flower shop is allowed to say, we don't want to serve or give you flowers. That's the difference. It just used to be the human that owns the flower shop hated the fact that I went in and got my girlfriend Friday flowers every Friday, but she had to grin and bear it and give me my Friday flowers. But now that flower shop is legally considered a person and allowed to say, my religious beliefs make it so that I don't want to serve you.
So what happened after that bill was made into law was there was a tremendous backlash. A lot of people are saying they're not coming to Indiana. There was a lot of concern. The mayor of Indianapolis said that he was against it, and also pointed out to the fact that I think they had an ordinance within the city that was supposedly protective of LGBT against discrimination. But and then as a result of that, then there was an amendment to, and tell us what that amendment was and what impact that has.
So you had Indiana who passed this law last week, and it's been law. And there have been companies that have used the law. There was one pizza shop where the owner, said straights only, and signs have been made and exist that say straights only, no gays allowed.
Wow, that just harkens back to
the civil rights
whites movement. Only.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Which where am I allowed to sit? And so these signs have been made and they exist in some stores. Well, that pizza shop owner ended up getting thousands of Yelp 1-star Yelp reviews from people not even in Indiana who will never, that wasn't the point, but she got eviscerated over Yelp. And then you had 3 states, New York, Washington, I want to say Connecticut, I'm not sure, but 3 states that banned all government-spent travel to Indiana. Angie's List, which pulled a contract that would have expanded into the Hoosier state and giving 1,000 more jobs. So really, they were feeling the pressure of companies. You had Apple giving their employees a day off so they could march in the streets in support of Tim Cook. So it was really a backlash that no one had expected. Arkansas had not yet passed their bill. They were watching everything take place and watching what was happening to Indiana. And so Wednesday, these amendments were proposed. They were passed with both states. And really, all the amendment says is this law cannot be used to discriminate against gays, lesbians, bisexual, transgender individuals, the LGBT community. That doesn't say anything. There is no actual anti-discrimination bill, and it's saying it can't be used in a discriminatory method, but they're still allowed to say, I don't want to give you flowers if that's truly my religious belief.
All right. So are you saying that doesn't prevent someone from not serving someone in the LGBTQ community? Exactly.
So the language around companies, corporations, that's still within the definition of person. And then the other component that makes this particular law different than the one on the books in 20 other states is the fact that one of the person can now use this law as a defense if they're sued, right? So before, you could only ever use the law as a defense if you were the government. In other words, the government could not prevent people from getting public accommodations, housing, the Civil Rights Act, right, basically. But this allowed both a government, or does allow a person and the government entity to use it as a defense against a lawsuit. So now you would have to be able to show that it's not just truly your religious intent, that your purpose was to discriminate. It's just such a slippery slope that they're going to need, unfortunately, there are going to need to be lawsuits, right? So we actually talked about this on another segment, and it's important to bring here, and we probably should have talked about it at the beginning. All of this is coming from the Supreme Court case Hobby Lobby, where the Supreme Court last year, almost a year ago, decided that closed corporations, which Scalia failed to define properly, so we have no idea what he means. It could mean Hershey, Mars, Campbell's Soup, huge companies, based on their religious belief. If the management of a company is pro-life and doesn't believe in women using contraception, even though they have Independence Blue Cross as their provider, they can say that no female employees have access to certain contraception, and they have to then get that separate, pay full price. They can't be used through their health insurance benefits.
Right.
The day after that Supreme Court case came out, religious leaders sent a letter to President Obama, about 100 signatories, asking for the same rights vis-a-vis the LGBT community. The minute that case was passed, religious leaders saw this as a loophole of where, so it was just a little pinprick in the dam. But little by little by little, in my opinion, anyone who's a part of a minority that could be oppressed due to religious beliefs should be very concerned. This isn't a gay issue. You have women's rights, you have gay rights. Little by little, I think the next fight over the next 10 to 15 years will be determining what space does religious freedom within the government context.
We don't have much more time, but I wonder if you can just very quickly touch on how this whole conversation is impacting the tri-state area.
We don't have employment non-discrimination here in Pennsylvania. We have municipalities, we have cities that have enacted their own. So in Philadelphia, you're safe. In about 20 some odd municipalities, you're safe. But again, here in Pennsylvania, HB 300 has never been passed, and we're hoping that one day it will. But every time something like this happens in a far-off state like Indiana, Arkansas, Alabama, all these states far, far away, where one in Philadelphia would say, oh, well, we kind of expected of them. But then we don't even have those protections here, right? And we have a Religious Freedom Restoration Act here in Pennsylvania, and we don't have that overarching non-discrimination policy that that would protect us given that law. So I think it shines a spotlight on us here in Pennsylvania that we need to do something vis-a-vis the LGBT community and really put our money where our mouth is and pass the laws that reflect that all Pennsylvanians are treated equally.
And back to Indiana, what you're saying is that even with the amendment that was signed by the governor, that it truly is really window dressing, that it doesn't provide any protections to the LGBTQ community.
So you have the critics that are saying it didn't go far enough and others that said it went too far. But if you Google Chick-fil-A images in Indiana, you'll see big signs that say straights only.
Wow. That is crazy. Well, listen, as always, appreciate your input and keeping us up to date on issues related to the LGBTQ community. If people want to find out more about you and what you do, how do they do that?
You can go to lawyer.lgbt. So that's right, not .com, just lawyer.lgbt.
Angela Giampolo, who is our co-host for this special segment called Speak Out, where we address issues related to and focused on the LGBTQ community and also all the rest of us, because these issues aren't just issues of one community. They're issues that impact us all. Angela, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you, Lorraine.